Well, welcome. It's early. It's early. I get it. And I'm tired. It is not even 6:30 yet in the AM. But I have to start work in half an hour, and I didn't get a SitRep out yesterday, so I thought I better get one out today because there's a lot of shit going on. I was kind of going, nah, there was a lot yesterday. It's all right. I'll take a day off. I had other stuff, more important things to do, and then overnight, more and more stories kept coming in. More and more messages from people kept coming in, to the point where I was just like, okay, well, I can't not get out there and do something. So I'm going to give you 25 minutes of my time or thereabouts and try and catch up on what's happened in the past 24 hours, because this is the SitRep for those who haven't joined me before. And as always, what I do is go through stories that I find interesting, and we have a look at it from the perspective of how we can best prepare ourselves for an uncertain future. In this, the age of crisis, I call it. Not just me, other people call it that too. I think I might have first heard that from Nate from Canadian Prepper, and I also read it in The Fourth Turning by somewhere or another. I'll figure out who that book's by. It's a really good book. I really recommend you read it because it might help contextualize what we're seeing at the moment in the world, that we're just seeing the effects, we're seeing the symptoms of our generations and who comes into charge of generations and who is coming into adulthood in our generations and how that's actually playing out in the world stage. All right. So without any further ado, let's get into it because there is a lot. Pakistan. They are rioting again. No big surprise there, but just a little bit of a catch up on what happened in Pakistan. There was, they kicked out their old prime minister, but the threats when they were kicking out Imran Khan, and especially from Imran Khan, were, hey, this is an imported government. This is somebody else who is pulling the strings here. So they're still rioting. They're still saying that this is an imported government. But that's not the only place where riots are happening. Iran. Let's shift to Iran. So we go sort of, what are we thinking? Northwestish from Pakistan. Iran. They're in trouble. They're in a lot of trouble. I said this a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not saying that to be like, oh, look how right I was. I don't really care that I'm right or wrong. But again, what I'm trying to do is highlight the trend so that we can see the trend, so we can see the bigger picture sometimes of the news cycle of what's going on, of the information that's coming to us, and go, okay, how do I best prepare myself? And I said Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's running out of stuff, and I'll get onto Sri Lanka in a bit because there's more stuff coming out of there. But I said it's the canary in the coal mine. Other countries are going to start to hurt, and we've been talking about food crisis is going to hit, and in many ways we haven't felt the food crisis so much here in Australia. Well, I certainly have not. I don't know if you have. Let me know if you have. We have seen a couple of small things as in isolated areas of shortages within Western countries. The great example being the baby food formula in the US. Okay, so that's a problem. Iran, a little bit more serious. No food. Yeah, no food. So they have a huge surge in their prices, which is exactly what I think would happen and will happen most likely in our country. We'll see a surge in food price. We will see a limitation in things. I don't think we'll see, if things get really bad, we might see it, but I don't predict at this stage that we'll see no food in Australia and surging prices like what we're talking about here. Up to 300% increases in everyday goods such as cooking oil, chicken, eggs, and milk. Okay, so those things are things that people need. They're constituent products that people need every single day of their lives to feed themselves, to feed their family. If you can't feed your family, you're going to get pretty angry. You're going to start doing some pretty desperate stuff. And that's what we're seeing here. So rioting, protests, they're up in arms. Linked to this, see if we can find the story. Not that one. Iran plans to use digital coupons to get bread. So bread's a big thing. There's I can't remember what the documentary was called, but I read a documentary that basically showed the world situation of wheat going back 12, 13, 14 years now, the global situation of wheat, and then the next 12 months to 24 months, what actually happened. And what actually happened was what we call now the Arab Spring, the uprising that happened throughout the Middle East, where many countries overthrew their leaders, and the US was like, or the CIA at least was like, sweet, we're going to get in there, we're going to plant some governments and do some stuff there. But very, very high profile event, and everyone was just like, oh wow, isn't it amazing? All these people just at once decided to like cast off the evil tyranny of their government. Good on them. Well, no, it wasn't just all at once. It was bread. People couldn't get wheat. The countries couldn't get wheat. People couldn't make bread. There was no bread. There were bread lines. That's one product that we're looking at here. There was other things as well, but bread's a pretty big part. It's pretty staple of a lot of people's lives. So yeah, the bread was costing too much, or it was unobtainable by the average person. Riots, overthrow government. So soaring bread prices are what we're seeing in Iran at the moment. So these 300% increases also flow onto flour-based products. Its official inflation rate is at 40%. And if you remember, I said the designation for hyperinflation is 50%, but some people are actually estimating that it's over 50%. So the official rate is 40%. Of course, no government wants to come out and say, yeah, we're officially like, we've got hyperinflation, that's going to make it worse. So they're trying to downplay it. They're saying it's 40%, people are saying it's over 50%. But again, as I said, official inflation and what you pay for, like what the average Joe has to pay for goods and services, is two totally different things. So 300% increase is what they're saying. So they said, hey, let's bring in this digital coupon, okay? We're going to ration food out to people. We'll feed you. The benevolent government powers that be will feed you. All you have to do is, I guess, sign up to this app and, make sure we register that it's you. And then you can go get your food. Ooh, I can feel right now there's like an overwhelming force of tinfoil hat people right now going like, ah! You should be freaking out. Even if you don't wear a tinfoil hat, you should be freaking out about that. That's not good. That is not good in any sense, that the government is handing out something that you then need to go sign up to, like, oh yeah, just use this app, sign up to it, give us all your information, then we'll feed you. Then you can get the basic fundament of human life. Plant your garden. All right, do it now. Plant a garden. I'm not going to stop saying this. Secure your own food situation. Secure your own food supply. Be your own farmer as much as possible. Interact with people in your community. Make sure that you are trying to encourage people through financial means, is probably a good way to do it, in growing their own food. So buy things off other people, swap stuff with other people. If you know a farmer that does things, like buy things off them. So like really start to think about this. What else is happening in Food Town? Food Town news. Egypt buys 500,000 tons of wheat from India. So this deal it's important to note that this deal actually was done and signed before India has closed off selling wheat. And as I said before, India closing off their wheat exports doesn't necessarily, like, it's a pretty sensationalized story, isn't it? Like, we're not putting any wheat out there. There will still be government level shiftings of wheat products if it benefits India enough. But Egypt is one of these countries that is a mass importer of wheat products, or a lot of food products. Again, this is another signal. You should be looking at this like, wow, India's importing how much? 500,000 tons of wheat. Okay, that should be raising your interest a little bit, because no prize for guessing where Egypt usually gets their wheat from, and they're not going to get it. Hey, Commie Killer, what if they end up raiding your farm? What if nukes end up going off? What if asteroids hit the Earth? What if dinosaurs raise up, zombie dinosaurs raise up and eat us all? It's like, at some point, there's going to be a force that always takes over what you're doing. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't prepare and plan and do what we can now within the structure of what we have now for the future. So good question. But like all these sort of like doomsdaying what ifs, like, oh yeah, but at some stage they can do this, or at some stage they can do that. I don't find that beneficial for us as individuals. We need to, yeah, exactly, zombie dinosaurs, man. That's what we need to be planning for. So it's just like, yeah, okay, at some stage they can come and like everything that I've stored up, everything that I've done, they can come and take that. They can come and take my life as well. But up until that point, I can continue doing what I'm doing, and I will continue doing what I'm doing. I'll continue to store up more food. I'll continue to grow as much food as I can. I'll continue to encourage other people to do so, and to encourage farmers to do so as well. Even to the point where they will probably start attacking smaller farmers as well, because there's stories on that. Bird flu, Idaho. More stuff about this bird flu thing coming out in the US. There are reports coming out, and unverified reports of individual farmers who are saying, hey, like I had a couple of sick birds. I called about it. Government representatives came in, said with a PCR test, hey, these birds have got bird flu, and then destroyed all my crop and paid me some money for it, and then destroyed everyone else's crop in the area as well. Like, so a few farmers are starting to say like, hey, what? What the fuck? How's this happening? Is this okay? Should we be allowing this? It seems odd from the outside, and now we're getting reports, because beforehand, like it seemed like farmers were like, "Yep, bird flu, pretty serious thing. We've got to get rid of it." So, yep, destroying the crops. Now it seems like a few farmers are going. Can I ask a question about this? This seems a little weird. Italy, African swine fever prompts culling of 2.1 million boar. Italians, I hope you weren't expecting to eat your bacon or your prosciutto this morning, because it's not going to happen. So what we're talking about here, boar being mainly wild, not cultivated animals. So you know they're even stepping over the line of the fence, going, this is animals that we cultivate, and so yep, that's a pretty easy win. Like, oh yep, diseases, that's a bad thing. It's going to feed humans. Now we're looking at wild things. Oh, let's kill them off. 2.1 million boar out there. Cap them, because African swine fever is in Italy. It's no longer warning signs. It's no longer warning alarms. It's like warning air raid sirens and lights and people screaming and fires. Like, we need to pay attention to what's happening to our food system. US fuel shortages are expected as early as mid-June. So this is an update on what I've been talking about, the fuel shortages within the US that are being predicted. They said that it will be way further off. Like originally they were saying like, oh, December, or, you know, oh, no, maybe November. And then they're like, probably September. Now they're saying June, July. So summer. So, you know, keep your eye on that. That'll start coming soon. Again, this is another thing we need to think about, your dependence on petrochemicals, on petrol, on diesel, on whatever it is. Just think about that. US is still having massive wildfires, by the way. In fact, that fire that's burning in New Mexico is now their largest in history. So weather effects are a big thing that I like to harp on about. Big thing I like to harp on about. All right, let's shift gears for 1 sec. Let's talk about some Europe stuff. EU Commission sets to allow purchase of natural gas from Russia under the Moscow payment scheme, satisfying Putin's demands. I mean, the writing was really on the wall there. Countries were doing it anyway. I don't know where they thought they were going to get gas from, but wherever they thought they were going to get gas from, every expert that I ever read on it was like saying that like this is not going to work. You're just going to have to live without gas if you want this to work, these sanctions to work. But the damage is done now, and so gas prices are set to probably triple throughout Europe. And again, one of the effects that I think we're going to see here in Australia is when world prices go up, because of the global network that we have, it opens the gateway for our prices to go up as well. So gas prices, I think, will go up. natural gas will probably go up a little bit here in Australia, just because it can. All right. Blah, blah, blah. No, let's talk about this. This one really jumped out at me. Yet to confirm, but a breaking report. China has begun refusing exit from its country, travelers having passports cut, forcing them to stay. So not only are we starting to see now the restriction of goods and other products that might help grow food and things like that from countries. Every country has had its own form of like, yeah, we're going to pull ourselves in a bit. We're going to restrict sending things off. China for a long time has had restriction of movement within its country. And it's one of the things that like I look at and I go, that's one of the things that kind of defines freedom for me in a way, is being able to move around at least your own country. I would say outside of your country too, in fact. So that's why this last 2 years has been quite a bit painful for me. Haven't enjoyed it that much and haven't liked what has been happening in the decisions that have been made by our own governments, because it resembles to me a communist government, a totalitarian communist government. So China's had a long-standing history of not letting its people move within the country. Like if you're in a district, it's sort of like you're in a district, you live there, okay? Don't go anywhere. And if things get bad, then they really lock down on that, and they make it like, bam, you definitely are not going to move. We don't want migration within the country. Everything's set. That's the way it's going to be. That's kind of the communist mindset as far as I'm concerned. Oh, life complicated, easiness. Just stop doing everything. Yep, that's it. Perfect. Take a photo. Everything's great. Doesn't work, unsurprisingly. Life's messy. It's complicated. Deal with it. Anyway, they're stopping people from getting out of their own country, apparently. Haven't confirmed this report yet, but again, another disturbing trend from what we're seeing in China. I don't like the direction that they're heading. I think they're in for some hard times. And if China collapses right now, which it could, that's going to be hurt for the whole world. We're all so dependent. We are all so on the China teat at the moment that if that teat dries up and it's drying, it's getting drier and we're just trying to suck harder, when it dries up, there's going to be some very sore mouths out there, Australia included. We are very linked to China's fate. That's one of the big things in the world where I keep saying, oh, Australia's pretty insulated. We're insulated because of China a lot of the time. There's NATO stuff. Sri Lanka runs out of petrol. So one of their ministers has come out and said, we've got 24 hours worth of petrol left. That's it. 24 hours. Imagine right now in Australia, Scott Morrison comes out and says, we've got 24 hours worth of petrol left in our country. So don't panic buy. Yeah. The mayhem obviously is going to ensue in an already chaotic situation. Sri Lanka is in the hurt locker. I feel for these people over in Sri Lanka. There's been a lot of mismanagement. Actually, somebody sent me a message. One of the people that I talk to quite often on Instagram sent me a really interesting story about how, I think it was 12 months ago or 24 months ago, somewhere in that time period, that the government came out during the pandemic and said, we're going to do the righty and we're going to go 100% organic and green in our agricultural industry. So I'm banning all foreign fertilizers. No fertilizer can come into this country. Done. Banned. We're all going to go organic. We're going to be the first country that does it. Love the ideal. I love it. It's beautiful, beautiful utopian ideal. Whenever I see a utopian idea, though, I always go, this is danger. I love utopian ideas. I love the idea of living in a perfect place, in harmony. I just don't think it's realistic at all. And this is a great example of how bad it can get. All right. The utopian idea, we will just stop fertilizers. That's cool. I would love people to get off fertilizers. I buy as much organic and I grow organic when I can. And I try and use systems that are self-replicating, self-propelling, like permaculture ideals when I'm doing stuff. When you're feeding millions of people with a system that we've used for 50 years, you can't just switch that off. People will die. People are dying in Sri Lanka. Now we're seeing the effects of that. Can't just go green overnight. Doesn't work that way. Italy's largest oil and gas company is ready to comply with Russia's requirement and open a Gazprom account in rubles. So again, another story that we're seeing from Italy. Like, Italy looks like it's starting to capitulate to Russia's wants and needs. Let me just check the time. I've got another 5 minutes. Whenever the government touches something, though, it ends up failing. From Commie Killer 2. Yes. I'm always stupefied at when people say, well, the government should just do this. I'm like, the government should just take control of the government should take control of nothing. I know. There are a few things actually the government should take control of, but most things in human lives in peacetime that the government has to do with has terrible effects, as far as I'm concerned. Feel free to argue with me though. I love discussing these sorts of things. Let's talk about Queensland. What's happening in Queensland? Farmers left heartbroken as Queensland floods ruin crops. Shoppers warned the price of fresh fruit and vegetables will rise after latest rain events. So a little bit of rain falling out of the ground up in Queensland, and a lot floods, right? It's pretty dire in some of those areas up there. And what they're saying is that the crops are going moldy. They are not growing properly. They're going to have to destroy them. There's millions of dollars here that's going to be wasted. On top of that, allegedly, 90% is what this story was saying. 90% of insurance claims have been rejected. So that's a bit bigger than just shitty crops, a shitty yield for 1 year. If we have a shitty yield, yeah, it's going to pump up prices. We're going to not get food this year. But those farmers, they will go, right, we'll put that back in the ground, and I will grow this food and do it right next year. But if they've just lost their crop, I mean, you got to think, like, a lot of farmers, they're not like tycoons sitting there like counting their cash, going, oh, this is great, whatever. Oh, well, we lost a crop this year. That's cool. We'll do it next year. They're living like hand to mouth. They're like, if this crop doesn't work in the way that I think it works, I can't eat properly. All right, this is all over. So when it goes bust like that, and then an insurance company comes in and says, hey, I know you spent all this money on insurance, but we're not going to cover it. Floods, it's not involved. Like, it's not in your it's in the clauses here in the fine print. Floods, we don't cover that. They're going to go, okay, well, I can do one or two things. I'm probably already in debt at the moment. I can go further into debt if I can, with the financial system as it is at the moment, whether the banks will allow them to go further into debt in what is already a risky situation, considering where the environmental effects are heading, where they've been getting worse and more prevalent. Yeah, all right, we can go more into debt if they can do that. Or they're going to go, I'm out. I'm done. No, can't do it anymore. I can't take this heartbreak year after year for one good year in 3 or 5 or 10. I can't afford it. Just can't do it. I'm out. I'm not growing this food next year. Who's going to step in and grow it? Maybe some big organization, maybe Woolies will take over the entire system totally officially and say, we're just going to grow it now. Or no one's going to grow it. And a lot of people are going to go hungry, and food prices will go up 300%, and they'll be rioting in the streets, just like Iran. Yeah, Comic Killer, you're up in Queensland. You can tell us what's going on up there. You're probably feeling the wetness, and it's people in Queensland who are primarily going to affect it, but it is going to affect Australia, especially the East Coast. That will trickle down. The food prices will increase down here. Interesting story out of the US. An Amish farmer. So Amish are people who kind of reject modern technology and look to the past to do their things. There's usually a certain era where they go, we don't go past here. So they're all horse and carts and buggies. They don't do electricity, I think, a lot of the time. Super interesting people. I find them fascinating, at least. I met a guy who lived in the Amish community for a while, and he told me how they live and what went on there. There's some weird stuff that happens there. I'll admit that. But there's also some cool stuff that happens there. Anyway, US marshals have come in and said, you are selling meat. You can't do that. You're not allowed to butcher meat. That's not on. Same thing as we have in here in Australia. A farmer can't butcher their own meat and sell it. They have to send it to a abattoir or get somebody to officially do it. So he's been fined 250K. They've also said you can pay for the person who had to investigate you, and you have to obviously stop doing it. Otherwise, you're going to go to jail. And we're going to get someone to continue investigating you, and you have to pay for their salary to do so. Yikes. Oh, it actually, like, I read that and had a visceral feeling of like, ugh. There's not many things that make me want to like overthrow the government, actually like act in that sort of way. I'm always saying that sort of stuff, but actually act in that sort of way, in a violent manner. But that sort of stuff where I'm like literally taking the food out of people's mouths and then slapping them for doing it. And then at the end, you can thank them for it. On top of that, in the Netherlands, there was a court case which might open the door for cows actually needing a permit to graze in meadows, and it's to do with climate change laws. So they're saying, oh, methane from cows, that's bad. So you're actually going to need a permit. The possibility is there that you might need a permit for your cows just to go about doing cow stuff, eating grass in a meadow. Where are we? Lots of Iran stuff in here. The Royal British Navy is sending ships down to our neck of the woods. They're coming back. The Empire is coming back. Yeehaw. The Queen's sitting there. She's not well, but she's like, go sort out those colonies down there. I think they're getting a bit crazy. China looks a bit weird. Send some ships. We got ships coming down there. This is, again, like watch global NATO sort of stuff. There's a lot of global NATO stuff bouncing around at the moment. I'm just going to whip through these last couple of things because I've got to go. Dangerous levels of imminent civil unrest in Western homelands. This is being predicted by global banks. So global banks got together and they said, hey, we've got to privately prepare for dangerous levels of imminent civil unrest in Western homelands. The same shit that I've been saying for a little while now. These people see it. They know what's going on. They're not just sitting in their ivory towers going like counting money. They're going like, what's going on in the world? What do we need to do? How do we prepare? And they're looking at our countries in Australia, UK, US, all throughout Europe, and they're going, people are going to start rising up. People are going to start rioting in the streets a lot. We need to do something about this now. Who knows what that is going to look like? All right, last little thing that I'm going to leave you with is migration, the thought of migration. Italy's Salvini warns food shortages could cause 20 million African migrants to enter Europe. I think as food starts to run out, one of the effects that we're going to see, and on top of weather effects as well, one of the effects that we're going to see is migration of people. And when migration starts to happen, I think we're going to see the equal and opposite reaction from governments, lockdowns. So that's what I'm sort of looking at. That's what I'm predicting. That's what I'm thinking about. And I'm starting to think, how can I best situate myself? Right. I need to still continue growing, storing food. I need to still think about, all right, how do I buoy up my little area of the world? Because if it does get bad enough and we do get locked down in some sort of way, I'm not going to necessarily just take it and be happy about it, but you have to think about that eventuality as well. So start thinking about that, put that in your minds. Get out in the gardens today, guys, if you can. Keep working, keep food prepping, keep storing up stuff, keep shifting your life towards something that resembles maybe an Amish life. That's my tip for the day. Become Amish. No, don't become Amish. But start thinking about how we can live outside the system, because the system looks like it is failing, and we don't need to look at that with fear. We can look at that with confidence and move forward as sovereign individuals and take charge of our own life. So good luck out there today, guys. Stay safe. Keep prepping. Take care, Common Killer, and shoot me any questions if you've got them. Semper Paratus.